3 months after graduation, the photographer called, voice shaking, saying he needed to show me something. When I saw the hidden footage, everything I thought I knew about that day twisted into a truth I wasn't ready for. Hey Reddit, I don't even know where to begin, honestly. My name's Pilar, I'm 27, and up until very recently, I thought I had my entire life mapped out, a straight, clear path to success and happiness. I'm the first lawyer in my family, a fact that still makes my chest swell with a weird mix of pride and a heavy sense of responsibility. I've always been a professional overachiever, I guess. It's just how I'm wired, how I survived. I grew up in Quito, Ecuador, specifically in this tiny, cramped apartment right above my Tia Rosa's bakery. Imagine waking up every single day to the smell of warm pan de yuca and strong coffee, but also knowing that every whisper, every argument, every laugh from your neighbors, or even the family living in the next room over was completely audible. Privacy was a luxury we couldn't afford, not really. My law school graduation wasn't some grand ceremony with hundreds of people. For my family, it was a collective event, live-streamed on a tiny, glitchy TV in our living room. I remember the static popping, the picture freezing just as they were about to call my name, and then the collective gasp, the tears, the sheer, unadulterated joy that erupted when my face finally flashed across the screen, diploma in hand. That day was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. A culmination of years of grinding, of late-night study sessions fueled by lukewarm coffee, and the unwavering belief that hard work could genuinely fix anything. It wasn't just my achievement. It symbolized a brighter future for all of us, a way out of the cramped spaces and the constant hustle. I truly believed I was laying the groundwork for something better, for a legacy. The air that day felt thick with hope, almost suffocatingly so, in the best possible way. Every hug from my parents felt like a promise fulfilled, every tear a testament to their sacrifices. I felt like I was floating. Then there was Esteban, my fiancé. He was this charismatic, charming guy who always had a way of making me feel like we were a team, a unit. He'd constantly champion us as a power couple in the making, always talking about our shared, ambitious future, his eyes gleaming with what I thought was genuine excitement for us. He made me feel seen, like my success was his success, like we were truly building something together. And my Uncle Mauricio. Oh, Uncle Mauricio. He's always been the self-declared family businessman, even though his ventures often felt more like elaborate schemes than actual businesses. He had this unique talent for attaching himself to anyone he perceived as climbing higher than him, like a barnacle to a ship, always eager to mentor or partner. At the time, I just saw his enthusiasm, and Esteban's too, as a testament to their love and support for me, for my success, for the future I was so desperately trying to build. I thought they were just proud, you know? Like they were genuinely invested in my journey. My heart swelled thinking I had such a strong support system. I was so incredibly, stupidly naive. Looking back now, with the benefit of hindsight and a gut-wrenching video, I can pinpoint so many tiny, almost invisible red flags from that graduation day. At the time, I just dismissed them as quirks, or maybe just the overwhelming excitement of the day. But they were there, little pinpricks of discomfort that I smoothed over with my own relentless optimism. I remember my Uncle Mauricio, for instance. He insisted on sitting with Esteban's family, almost physically maneuvering himself into their row, leaving my actual parents to find seats further back. It wasn't overt, not a shove or anything, but more like a series of subtle, confident movements. He'd say, "Oh, there's more space here, don't you think?" To Esteban's aunt, then just be there, blocking the path to the empty chair beside my mother. My mom, bless her heart, gave me a small, almost imperceptible shrug, a tiny sad smile, and just squeezed my dad's hand, moving to an aisle seat a few rows behind. I felt a faint, almost imperceptible tug in my gut, like a thread unspooling, but I immediately rationalized it. He's just social, Pilar. Don't be silly. He wants to network. Then came the photo sessions after the ceremony. This one stung a bit more even then, but again, I buried it. Every time we'd line up for a picture, me, Esteban, my parents, Mauricio would somehow insert himself, not just in the photo, but front and center. And Esteban, my fiancé, would subtly, gently nudge my mom out of the prime spot. "Oh, mama, Let's get a shot with just the three of us first, he'd say, his arm around me, smiling brightly, while his other hand would make a small, almost imperceptible gesture for my mother to step back. She'd try to come back into frame, her eyes usually so bright with pride, dimming just a fraction, and then Mauricio would be there, linking arms with Esteban, pulling him into a different angle. Come on, mija, let's get a real power shot, he'd boom, beaming at me, effectively boxing my mom out. It happened not once, but 3 times. Each time, I'd offer my mother a quick, apologetic smile, and she'd just nod, her hand, usually so warm and reassuring, feeling colder, slightly withdrawn as she slipped to the side. I just told myself, they're just excited. Everyone wants to be part of the moment. God, I was such an idiot. These weren't isolated incidents. Esteban's constant talk about our ambitious future always felt off. It was like he was sketching out a grand painting, and I was just the brush he'd wield, or maybe the canvas he'd paint on. He'd say things like, once we get that big firm, I'll handle the clients, of course, and you'll make sure all the contracts are solid. No one will mess with us. Or, when we finally buy that bigger house, I'll get that sports car I've always wanted. You can pick out the drapes. It always started with we, but quickly morphed into I and you, with me definitely in the supporting role. A tiny, almost inaudible alarm bell would ring in the back of my mind, quickly silenced by my own eagerness to believe in his vision, in our vision. I wanted that power couple dream so badly that I ignored the subtle shifts in pronouns, the way his eyes would light up more for his projected success than for ours. I just thought, he's a man, he's ambitious, it's just how he talks, he means well. And Uncle Mauricio. Oh, he was a master of the predatory hint. He'd often corner me, usually over coffee at Tia Rosa's bakery, leaning in conspiratorially, his breath smelling faintly of stale coffee and cheap cologne. Pilarcita, he'd whisper, his eyes too bright, too keen. With your brain, once you get that license, you could make things disappear. Legally, of course. A good lawyer knows how to bend the rules, not break them. And you'll be a great lawyer, a useful lawyer. He always emphasized useful, as if my entire being was defined by my utility to him. He'd talk about golden opportunities that would come my way, family deals that only someone with my sharp mind could handle. There was always a glint in his eye, a hint of something shady beneath the surface that felt more predatory than supportive. But I brushed it all off. I was convinced they were just proud, just ambitious, just like me. My family had always celebrated my achievements, and I genuinely believed their enthusiasm was a testament to their love and support for me and my success. I was so wrapped up in the glow of my accomplishment, so eager to believe in the bright future I'd worked so hard for, that I willfully ignored every single warning sign. I thought I was surrounded by people who believed in me. I couldn't have been more wrong. Okay, so I'm 3 months out from graduation. 3 months of navigating the initial excitement, the intense study for the bar, and of course the whirlwind of wedding planning. Esteban and I were in it. We were picking out venues, tasting cakes, arguing, lightheartedly I thought, over guest lists. My life felt full, almost bursting with the promise of this beautiful future I was building, brick by brick, with my own hands and my law degree. I was finally settling into the rhythm of being a real adult, a future lawyer, a fiancé. Then the phone rang. It was an unknown number, and for a split second, I almost didn't answer. But something nudged me. It was the graduation photographer, a guy named Mateo. His voice, usually so boisterous and cheerful during our photo ops, was now oddly subdued, almost hesitant. Pilar, he started, a slight tremor in his tone. This is Mateo, from your graduation. Look, I've been going through some of the behind-the-scenes footage, for my portfolio, and, well, I found something you should really see. My heart gave a little skip. I immediately braced myself for some mortifying blooper reel. Maybe I tripped over my gown in front of everyone, or I had spinach in my teeth during my proudest moment. My cheeks already started to burn with anticipatory embarrassment. Oh God, Mateo, I laughed, trying to sound light. Did I do something ridiculous? Did my cap fall off mid-walk? I could almost hear him wringing his hands on the other end. No, Pilar, no, nothing like that. It's not about you, not directly. I think you need to see this. I can send you a clip if you have a moment. A knot of unease began to tighten in my stomach. His careful phrasing, the way he stressed not directly, it felt heavy. I told him to send it. A few minutes later, an email popped up in my inbox with a link to a short video. I remember my finger hovering over the play button, my breath catching in my throat. My apartment, usually a sanctuary, suddenly felt too quiet, too still. I clicked. The video opened to a dimly lit backstage area. It was a corner, tucked away behind some dusty curtains and stacked chairs, clearly a spot where people thought they were completely unobserved. And there they were, Esteban and Uncle Mauricio. They were leaning against a wall, laughing, their faces relaxed and animated, completely at ease. My stomach dropped. I could hear the muffled sounds of the ceremony starting in the background, a distant murmur of applause. But their voices, clear and cutting, filled my small room. Mauricio was gesturing wildly, a wide, almost manic grin on his face. "Can you believe it, mijo?" he boomed, a little too loud, slapping Esteban on the back. "Our Pilarcita, a lawyer. Finally, someone useful in the family for real business." My heart hammered against my ribs. Useful? I watched Esteban nod, a smug smirk playing on his lips. "Yeah," he chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "Useful is right. All those years of books and late nights. And now she'll finally be signing those loan papers and contracts for your little import business, eh, Tio? No more dealing with those finicky lawyers asking too many questions. Pilar just signs where I tell her to." My blood ran cold. My hands started to shake, a tremor that went all the way up my arms. I felt a wave of nausea, like I'd just swallowed something rotten. They were laughing. Laughing. My law degree, my years of sacrifice, my entire future, reduced to a tool for his little import business. It was like watching a horror movie where the monster was wearing the faces of people I loved. Esteban then leaned closer to Mauricio, his voice dropping slightly, but still perfectly audible. "I'll cash in before she even realizes what a mess it is, Tio. Don't worry. The moment those papers are signed, we're golden." I felt a scream building in my throat, but it never escaped. My breath hitched, a painful gasp. The screen blurred for a second as my eyes welled up, but I refused to look away. I couldn't. I had to see it all, every ugly, brutal second. And then came the final gut-wrenching blow. Just as the camera picked up a stagehand calling their names, signaling it was time to join the procession to see me receive my diploma, Esteban turned to Mauricio, his face hardening, all traces of the easygoing fiancé gone. His eyes were cold, calculating. He adjusted his tie, a chillingly casual gesture. "Once she signs for the warehouse," he said, his voice flat, devoid of any warmth, "if she gets difficult, I'll find a way out. There are always other girls." The air left my lungs in a rush. Other girls. Not just a backup plan, but a casual, effortless dismissal of me, of us, of everything I thought we were building. My entire being, my worth, reduced to a signature on a paper, easily replaced if I became inconvenient. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a cold, calculating disregard for my entire existence, my dreams, my heart. That sentence, those 3 words, were like a switch flipping inside me. The shock, the nausea, the heartbreak, they all coalesced into a sharp, burning anger, a clarity I hadn't known existed. In that exact moment, the naive, overachieving Pilar died, and something else, something much colder and much more resolute, was born. I sat there, staring at the frozen image of their laughing faces on my laptop screen, my heart a block of ice in my chest. This wasn't just a breakup. This was war. The video clip ended, but the image of Esteban's cold, calculating face and his words, "There are always other girls," burned into my retinas. It felt like someone had reached inside my chest and twisted my heart into a dry, brittle knot. My blood didn't just run cold. It felt like it had congealed, thick and sluggish in my veins, leaving me feeling strangely numb and yet acutely aware of every single nerve ending screaming. A wave of nausea hit me so hard, so suddenly, that I clapped a hand over my mouth, my stomach clenching violently as if trying to expel the truth I had just ingested. I stumbled to the bathroom, leaning over the toilet, dry heaving until my throat burned, but nothing came up, just bitter bile and the echo of their laughter. Coming back to my laptop, I saw my own reflection in the dark screen, my face pale, eyes wide, and rimmed with unshed tears. For a horrifying moment, I saw strangers. Not my fiancé, not my uncle, but two monstrous caricatures wearing their skin, speaking with their voices, but devoid of any humanity I thought I knew. A primal part of me, the old Pilar, the one who believed in the inherent goodness of people, wanted nothing more than to slam the laptop shut, to unplug it, to smash it, to pretend I hadn't heard, hadn't seen, to go back to the blissful, ignorant happiness of 3 months ago, before this ugly truth had seeped into my world and poisoned everything. The urge to deny, to escape, was almost overwhelming, a desperate plea from my shattered innocence. But another part of me, a colder, harder part, wouldn't let me. It was like a dam had broken, and a torrent of memories, previously dismissed, now flooded my mind, each one a sharp, jagged shard of glass. Every power couple joke Esteban had ever made, now replaying with a sinister undertone. Every time Mauricio had subtly pushed my parents aside at graduation, every gentle nudge from Esteban during photo sessions, every useful comment, it all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. I remembered my mother's small, sad smile, her hand feeling cold, withdrawn. She knew. Or at least, she felt it. The undercurrent of something off. And I, the supposed smart one, the lawyer, had been too blind, too eager to believe in a narrative of success and love. The shame for being so incredibly naive, so willingly blind, was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest until I almost couldn't breathe. It mingled with a furious, burning anger at their audacious deceit, their casual cruelty, their absolute disregard for me as a human being, as a partner, as family. And beneath it all, a deep, aching heartbreak for the future I thought I was building, for the trust I had so freely given, for the man I thought I loved. It wasn't just a shattered engagement. It was a shattered worldview. The world I thought was bright and full of promise had just revealed itself to be a dark, predatory place, and I had been walking through it with my eyes closed. For a long moment, I just sat there, trembling, feeling the conflicting emotions tear at me, threatening to rip me apart. But then, slowly, meticulously, the anger won. It coalesced into a sharp, icy point of resolve. If they saw me only as a tool, a means to an end, a signature on a paper, then I would show them exactly what happens when that tool learns how the entire system works. I would show them what a good lawyer, can do when pushed. I took a deep, shaky breath, the air burning in my lungs. My hands were still trembling, but my mind surprisingly felt clear, focused. I picked up my phone, my fingers fumbling slightly as I dialed Mateo, the photographer. His voice was still hesitant when he answered. "Mateo," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Thank you for sending that. I need a full copy of that video, the raw footage, everything you have from that corner. And I need it officially verified, with a signed statement from you confirming it hasn't been altered in any way, shape, or form." There was a pause on his end, a quiet gasp. He must have realized the gravity of what he'd shown me and what I was planning. "I'll pay you, Mateo," I continued, making sure my voice conveyed absolute seriousness. "And I'll pay you well. Just please, make sure it's pristine. I need it for professional reasons." The professional reasons felt like a lie, but it also felt like the most honest truth I'd ever spoken. My future, my integrity, my entire career. It was all on the line, and I was going to fight for it. For the next few weeks, I became an actress. An Oscar-worthy performance, if I do say so myself. I played my part perfectly, every forced smile a painful contortion of my lips, every polite nod a betrayal of the churning maelstrom in my gut. I attended wedding planning meetings, sitting across from Esteban, discussing cake flavors, red velvet, his favorite, and flower arrangements, all the while thinking about how I was going to systematically dismantle his carefully constructed lie. The smell of fresh roses from the florist's sample bouquet, usually so lovely, now made me want to gag. Each time Esteban would reach for my hand, my skin would crawl, but I'd force myself to squeeze back, to meet his gaze, to pretend nothing was wrong. "Our future, mi amor," he'd whisper, kissing my forehead, completely oblivious, and I'd just bite back the bile rising in my throat. It was exhausting, a constant battle to keep my poker face intact, to not let the icy rage simmering beneath the surface crack through. Every interaction felt like a trap, every word a lie. Mauricio, bless his conniving heart, confidently pitched me his golden opportunity over several excruciatingly long lunches. He'd flash me printouts of blueprints for a new storage facility, his eyes gleaming with what he thought was visionary ambition, completely unaware that he was laying out the very evidence I needed. "Pilarcita, this is it, the big one. Think of the returns, the family legacy." He'd gush, his voice booming in the quiet restaurant. He needed me to co-sign a massive loan, using my soon-to-be career, my very license, as collateral. "With your name on it, the banks will practically throw money at us," he declared, slapping the draft contracts down on the table with a flourish. My gut churned, a knot of pure revulsion tightening with every word. But I maintained my serene smile, asking all the right questions, pretending to be utterly captivated by his brilliance. I even took the papers home, promising to review them thoroughly before the big family signing dinner. That night, alone in my apartment, the air thick with my own simmering fury, I spread the contracts across my kitchen table. The paper felt heavy, loaded with deceit. I started reading, line by excruciating line, my legal brain clicking into gear, cold and precise. And there it was. Not just a sneaky clause, but an entire brutally obvious section, designed to make me solely responsible if the business defaulted, releasing both Esteban and Mauricio from any real liability. It was so blatant, so audacious in its contempt for me, that for a second, I actually laughed, a dry, humorless sound that scraped my throat. They weren't just using me, they were setting me up to take the fall, to lose everything I'd worked for. My law degree, my future, my financial stability. All of it would be obliterated while they walked away scot-free. Then I looked at the lawyer's name on the bottom of the document. Licenciado Miguel Flores. The name tickled something in the back of my mind. A quick cross-check on the Bar Association's online registry, something I'd learned to do instinctively in law school, confirmed my suspicion. Not only was he a shade tree lawyer, but he wasn't just shady. He was Mauricio's childhood friend, and had been recently and severely disciplined by the bar for multiple ethics violations, including gross negligence and conflicts of interest. The picture of his stern face on the disciplinary notice seemed to mock me. It wasn't just a betrayal by Esteban and Mauricio, it was a conspiracy, a calculated maneuver to ruin me completely. In that moment, the last vestiges of doubt about my plan evaporated. My revenge wasn't just about anger anymore. It was about justice, about protecting other potential victims, about stopping these vultures dead in their tracks. My plan solidified into something even more devastating, a precise legal strike. I waited. I waited until they organized the joint family dinner. Mauricio insisted it was to celebrate our future, Pilarcita, but I knew it was the signing ceremony, the public declaration of my servitude. The air in my parents' slightly too small dining room was thick with anticipation. The table was crowded, overflowing with plates of frittata and empanadas, but also with people. My parents, Esteban's entire family, his parents, his sisters, his aunts and uncles, and Mauricio and his wife. Everyone was dressed up as if it were already a wedding rehearsal, the atmosphere falsely festive. My mother kept beaming at me, her eyes shining with pride, oblivious to the impending explosion. Esteban kept giving me these adoring looks, his arm around my chair, occasionally squeezing my shoulder, a gesture that now felt profoundly disgusting. When they finally cleared the main dishes and slid the stack of loan papers and contracts in front of me, Mauricio produced a fancy pen, a triumphant smirk plastered across his face. "Go on, mija," he urged, his voice oily with false bonhomie. "Make us all proud." Esteban leaned in, his breath warm on my ear. "Almost there, babe. Our future starts tonight." I picked up the pen, my hand steady despite the roaring in my ears. I looked at Esteban, then at Mauricio, then at my parents, my heart aching with the double betrayal. With a serene, almost beatific smile, I slowly, deliberately pulled my laptop out of my bag. The small, familiar click of it opening echoed in the suddenly silent room. Every eye was on me, confusion dawning on their faces. I took a deep breath, connected my laptop to the large old TV screen in the corner, the one usually reserved for football matches. The screen flickered to life. "Before I sign anything," I announced, my voice clear and steady, cutting through the thick, expectant silence. "I just want to show you all a very special clip from my graduation, something Mateo, the photographer, found. I think it perfectly encapsulates the family legacy we're all celebrating tonight." The footage played. Their voices, Esteban's and Mauricio's, filled the room, amplified by the TV speakers, clear and cutting. Their laughter. Their jokes about me being useful. Esteban's smug assurance that he'd cash in before she realizes what a mess it is. And then, the final devastating blow. "Once she signs for the warehouse, if she gets difficult, I'll find a way out. There are always other girls." The words hung in the air, a chilling echo of their true intentions, for all to hear, for all to witness. The silence in the room was absolute, deafening. The only sound was their voices, exposing them, ruining them, and my future, in one fell swoop. Oh man, those weeks between seeing the video and that family dinner were pure hell. An absolute, agonizing internal battle that nearly broke me. Every single power couple compliment from Esteban felt like a fresh stab wound, a sick twist of the knife. He'd talk about our dream house and our future kids, his hand brushing mine, and my entire body would just seize up. My skin would crawl, a cold dread washing over me, but I'd force myself to smile, to nod, to pretend. I'd catch my reflection in a window, and I wouldn't recognize the person staring back, a hollow-eyed stranger playing a part in a twisted play. Every family gathering, every casual coffee at Tia Rosa's bakery where Mauricio would inevitably show up, felt like walking into a trap with my eyes wide open. He'd clap me on the back, his breath heavy with cheap cologne, and tell me how proud he was of my little lawyer, how lucky the family was to have me. And I'd just nod, my smile fixed, while my mind screamed. It was exhausting, this constant performance. There were so many moments, late at night, when I'd just stare at the ceiling, tears silently streaming down my face, wondering if I should just walk away, just quietly disappear. Send a text, ghost him, refuse to sign anything, and just vanish. The thought of confronting them privately, of having a quiet, dignified breakup, appealed to the exhausted part of me. It felt like the easier path, the one that wouldn't cause a massive explosion. But then, the fear would creep in, suffocating and cold. My biggest, most crushing obstacle was my mother. Oh God, my mother. She had spent months hunched over her sewing machine, meticulously stitching every bead, every lace detail onto my engagement dress. It wasn't just a dress. It was her hopes, her dreams for my future, for grandchildren, for a life better than hers, all woven into the fabric. Every time she'd talk about the wedding, her eyes would shine, her heart soaring with pride and joy. She'd pull out old photo albums, pointing to faded pictures of her own wedding, talking about traditions, about family. Telling her the truth, exposing Esteban and Mauricio, meant shattering her heart too. It meant collapsing a beautiful, idealized future she had envisioned, not just for me, but for all of us. The thought of seeing the light drain from her eyes, of her pride turning to crushing disappointment, was almost unbearable. It made my stomach clench with a desperate, protective ache. How could I do that to her? And then, the pragmatic lawyer part of my brain would kick in. If I moved too early, if I tried a quiet confrontation, what would happen? They would simply deny everything. Esteban, with his charming smile and persuasive words, would twist the narrative. Mauricio, with his blustering indignation, would back him up. They'd make me look paranoid, unstable, a hysterical woman. They'd accuse me of making things up, of being jealous, of having cold feet. And then what? They'd just find some other naive graduate, some other ambitious young woman to exploit. They'd find another useful lawyer to sign their shady papers, another other girl to string along. The thought of them getting away with it, of continuing their predatory games, fueled a cold, hard anger that pushed past the doubt. There were moments, so many moments, when I questioned my sanity, my morality. Was this elaborate revenge plan too harsh? Was causing such a public scene, such widespread embarrassment, truly necessary? My conscience, trained in justice and fairness, wrestled with the primal need for retribution. Couldn't I have just refused to sign and quietly ended things? Walked away and let them stew in their own mess? My family, my culture, always preached discretion, avoiding conflict, maintaining appearances. This was the antithesis of everything I'd been taught. My hands would clench until my nails dug into my palms, leaving crescent moon marks, as I battled the urge to just let it all go, to protect my own peace. But every time that doubt crept in, the image of Esteban's cold eyes, his casual dismissal of my entire being, "There are always other girls," would flash in my mind. The memory of Mauricio's predatory glint, his relish in the idea of me being useful for his shady dealings, would solidify my resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about justice. This was about preventing them from doing this to someone else. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that they would absolutely, without hesitation, find another victim. Another woman to exploit, another life to potentially ruin. And I simply couldn't allow that. I had the evidence. I had the skills. I had the opportunity to stop them. The thought of their continued deceit, their unchecked greed, the possibility of them destroying another innocent person's life, fueled my resolve, turning the churning anxiety into a steel-hard determination. I knew, deep down, that this public spectacle, as agonizing as it would be, was the only way to truly expose them and ensure they couldn't simply move on to their next target. This was the only way to really protect my future, and perhaps the future of someone else. The immediate aftermath of that video playing was a silence so profound it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. It wasn't just quiet. It was a heavy, suffocating stillness, broken only by the faint whir of the TV fan. Esteban's face, which had been so smug moments before, drained of color, then flushed a mottled, angry red. He sputtered, trying to find words, his jaw working uselessly. "Pilar, mi amor," he finally managed, his voice a hoarse whisper. It's taken out of context. You don't understand." His eyes darted around the room, pleading, desperate, but no one met his gaze. His family, usually so boisterous, sat frozen, their faces a mixture of shock and dawning horror. His mother, who had been so excited about the wedding, clutched her husband's arm, her knuckles white. Mauricio, ever the blusterer, sprang up, his chair scraping loudly against the tiles, shattering the silence. "That's a fabrication, a lie. That photographer, that traitor. He doctored it. This is slander, Pilar. You'll regret this." He was shouting now, his voice raw, pointing a trembling finger at the TV screen, as if attacking the pixels themselves would erase the damning words. His wife, usually so composed, looked utterly mortified, shrinking in her seat. But it was my father's reaction that truly silenced them both. My dad, usually a quiet man, a gentle giant who rarely raised his voice, simply stood up. His movements were slow, deliberate, his eyes fixed on the contract still on the table. He reached out, his hand steady, and pushed the stack of papers, the golden opportunity, the symbol of my future ruin, back across the polished wood, away from me, away from his daughter. The thud of the papers hitting the table echoed loudly. He didn't shout. He didn't even look at Esteban. He just looked at the door. "Esteban," he said, his voice low, deceptively calm, but laced with an icy authority I had rarely heard. "Leave our home." The words hung in the air, a final, unchallengeable decree. Esteban looked from my father to me, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. But he knew. He knew it was over. He stormed out, his family scrambling awkwardly behind him, their apologies mumbled and hollow. The wedding plans, the meticulously chosen flowers, the cake tasting, the dress my mother had sewn with so much love. It all evaporated overnight, not with a bang, but with a quiet, sad whimper. My mother just sat there, tears streaming down her face, not looking at me, but at the empty chair where Esteban had been, at the ghost of a future that had just been obliterated. It was exactly as I had feared, and it tore at my heart, even amidst the grim satisfaction. But I didn't stop there. The anger, the cold resolve, hadn't dissipated. The very next day, with a clarity that surprised even myself, I gathered all my evidence. The video, Mateo's signed statement, the contracts Mauricio had given me with their insidious clauses, the disciplinary records of Licenciado Miguel Flores. I meticulously compiled it all into a package, attaching a detailed objective note outlining Mauricio's business style and his lawyer friend's known ethical breaches. I sent it, registered mail, to the Bar Association's Ethics Committee. It felt like a surgical strike, precise and necessary. A few months have passed since that night. The fallout has been substantial. Mauricio's lawyer friend, Licenciado Flores, did indeed face further investigation, and I heard through the grapevine that his already tarnished reputation was utterly destroyed, his license now permanently revoked. As for Mauricio, word got around, fast. In a city like Quito, where reputation is everything, especially in business, that video and the subsequent investigation into Flores were poison. Banks, once so eager for his visionary projects, became considerably less eager to lend to him. His golden opportunities seemed to dry up, replaced by closed doors and suspicious glances. He tried to blame me, of course, but his usual bluster now sounded hollow, desperate. He was no longer the self-declared family businessman. He was just a man with a ruined reputation. I used to think my law school graduation proved I was finally in control of my life, that I had earned my place, secured my future. Turns out, it only gave me the tools to see how little control I'd actually had, how easily I could have been manipulated, used, and discarded. The real ceremony wasn't the one where I got my diploma, surrounded by applause and fleeting pride. It was the night I chose my integrity over a ring and a family dinner, the night I chose myself, and walked away before they could sign my name onto their mess and bury me beneath it. It was a baptism by fire, a brutal awakening. Things are quieter now. The storm has passed, leaving behind a strange, almost eerie calm. I'm slowly, painstakingly rebuilding my trust in people, in the world, and in my own judgment. I've thrown myself into my career, found a firm that values actual ethics, and I'm finding a sense of purpose beyond just overachieving. But the scars are still there, deep and sometimes aching. Every time a new person expresses interest in my career, a tiny, almost imperceptible alarm bell rings in the back of my mind. Every time someone praises my intelligence, I scrutinize their eyes for that predatory gleam. I'm learning to differentiate, but it's a slow, painful process. Reddit, I blew up my family and my engagement to save myself from becoming a financial pawn, to protect my integrity and my future. The cost was immense. My mother still cries sometimes, though she understands now after seeing the full truth. My father, bless him, has been my rock. But the broader family is fractured. Whispers follow me. Was I too harsh? Was making such a public spectacle, causing such widespread embarrassment, truly justified? Or was I just a vengeful asshole who burned bridges to the ground? I need an outside perspective. Eta.